Girivara Dhari
Jaya Gopinath
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari
Jaya Gopinath
Yasodhanandana Raja Janaranjana Yasodhanandana Raja Janaranjana Yasodhanandana Raja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki Tathai Go Premanande. We have Bhagavad Gita here. So my name is Bhakti Brhat, Bhagavat Swami. So if you are meeting me for the first time, I am happy to be in your transcendental company. I joined ISKCON in 1983 in Durban in South Africa, which is about 42 years or so. And I entered the sannyas ashram about over 15 years ago in 2009. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 80. This Bhagavad Gita is a little viva. Okay, chapter 8 entitled Attaining the Supreme. Text number 21. The Sanskrit is as follows. Avyakto shara iti yuktas tamho paramam gatim yam prapya nanivatante tadama paramam mama. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Translation. That which the Vedantas describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, that is my supreme abode. And in the purport, the supreme abode of the personality of Godhead, Krishna, is described in the Brahma Samhita as Chintamani Dham, a place where all desires are fulfilled. The supreme abode of Lord Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavan, is full of palaces made of touchstone. There are also trees called desire trees that supply any type of eatable upon demand, and there are cows known as Surabhi cows which supply a limitless supply of milk. In this abode, the Lord is served by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune, Lakshmis, and He is called Govinda, the primal Lord and the cause of all causes. The Lord is accustomed to blow His flute, Venam Vanantam. His transcendental form is the most attractive in all the worlds. His eyes are like lotus petals, and the color of His body is like the color of clouds. He is so attractive that His beauty excels that of thousands of cupids. He wears saffron cloth, a garland around His neck, and a peacock feather in His hair. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna gives only a small hint of His personal abode, Goloka Vrindavan, which is the supermost planet in the spiritual kingdom. A vivid description is given in the Brahma Samhita. Vedic literatures, Katha Upanishad 1.3.11 state that there is nothing superior to the abode of the Supreme Godhead, and that abode is the ultimate destination. Purusham na param kinchit sakasta paramagati. When one attains to it, he never returns to the material world. Krishna's supreme abode and Krishna himself are non-different, being of the same quality. On this earth of Vrindavan, 90 miles southeast of Delhi, is a replica of that supreme Goloka Vrindavan located in the spiritual sky. When Krishna descended on this earth, he spotted on that particular tract of land known as Vrindavan, comprising about 84 square miles in the district of Mathura, India. Om Agyana Atimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada was translating the Nectar of Devotion, which is Srila Rupa Goswami's book called the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And into English it's called the Nectar of Devotion. So in the later chapters in the Nectar of Devotion, it speaks about Raganuga Vaishnava and Ragat Mika devotees. So a Ragat Mika devotee is not a Vaishnava because they are one of the eternal associates of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. Essentially, Vaishnavas are followers of Vishnu. But in Goloka Vrindavan there's no Vishnu. This Krishna was the source of the expansions like Vishnu and incarnations like Ram, Nrsimha, Varaha and so forth. So the word Ragatmika, Raga means a natural attachment. So a natural attachment is naturally deep from the language of the material world. But a natural attachment in Goloka Vrindavan is not deep, it's natural. So that's called Ragatmika. So Ragatmika devotees are like Mother Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj, Sridham, Subal, Stoka Krishna, were the coward boys. And Radharani, Lalita, Vishaka, and so forth. Rupa Manjari, Rati Manjari, Vilas Manjari. So they are gopis. So these are different examples of Rag Atmika. Atmika means your very life, your very existence is in relation to a natural attachment to serve Radha Krishna. Ragatmika. However, in this world we have Rag Anuga Vaishnavas. So here Rag means deep attachment, but at one time there was no deep attachment. By practice of Krishna consciousness, you develop deep attachment, which becomes natural in Goloka Vrindavan. So Anuga means that one naturally in the heart, privately or confidentially, because that which is kept intimate and confidential and not advertised for show is of value. As soon as that becomes advertised and for show, it becomes shallow, it becomes cheap. So by its own nature, Rag Anuga Vaishnavas, Anuga means to follow somebody who has Rag, like Lalita Vishaka, Yasodananda, Sridham Subal, like that. So when Srila Prabhupada was dictating, when he translates, he dictates into his dictaphone. And when he dictates into his dictaphone, and then the devotees who are given the service, they transcribe, type in from hearing his audio on the dictaphone, and they type in that, and then it goes to the editors, and then after the manuscripts are edited, it comes back to Srila Prabhupada, and then he gives the final go-ahead to put it into book form, and therefore it becomes a nectar of devotion. So in the early days when Srila Prabhupada was translating the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu into English, into the Nectar of Devotion as the title, sometimes the book is not printed yet. So as Srila Prabhupada dictates into his dictaphone and it comes out into transcriptions, and when the transcriptions are approved by Srila Prabhupada, then before the book is printed, they distribute it to all the centers. And they get enlivened, Oh, Prabhupada's words, like that. So some of the manuscripts from the later chapters were being distributed like that. So one, you could say young lady disciple, young adult lady disciple, she was also reading those manuscripts because it arrived in that particular temple. And she was very intrigued that you can follow in the footsteps of a resident of Goloka Vrindavan. She liked it like that. So when Srila Prabhupada was giving darshan to all the devotees, she was also there, but she barely joined maybe a year or two ago, very naive and very innocent. So when Srila Prabhupada asked for questions, so she raised her hand like that, because she was very absorbed in reading the transcripts of the later chapters of the Nectar of Devotion. So Srila Prabhupada, said, Srila Prabhupada, when I was reading your approved manuscripts of the Nectar of Devotion before it would get into book form, I was very attracted to so many eternal associates, in Goloka Vrindavan. And then Srila Prabhupada just said like this. You know? Because he wanted her to speak more because what she wants to say or ask. Then she said, Srila Prabhupada, you know, I'm very attracted to Mother Yasoda. And then Srila Prabhupada didn't say much. And then again, after some pause, he said, And then he looked at her again. And he said, and then she said, Srila Prabhupada, but then again, you know, I was reading on and I was feeling, maybe I should meditate on Mother Yasoda. Like that. And then Prabhupada said, In other words, he wasn't saying yes, he wasn't saying no, he wasn't giving any approval. He was just saying, Okay. Then she said, you know, I'm also, she may have said something like, I'm also keen because I like Lalita. Then Srila Prabhupada said, so what is your question? Because she was not answering a question yet. Then she said, Srila Prabhupada, I'm a little confused. I do not know who to meditate on. So you can maybe tell me which resident of Goloka Vrindavan I should meditate on. You know, is it Nanda Maharaj, or is it Yasoda, or is it Lalita? I don't know which, you know, person I have to meditate on. So because she was speaking from the level of a Raganuga Vaishnava. Anuga means to follow one of the Raganuga, which is in Goloka Vrindavan. So Srila Prabhupada paused and you could not hear a pin drop in the room. Like that. Srila Prabhupada took his fist, you know, and he said, and you should know that I am the resident of Vrindavan. Are we clear? He never tells that in public. We good? One time in Caracas. Caracas is the capital city of Venezuela. Venezuela is a country in South America but on the north side. It's like from the beginning of the West Indies islands of Central America. So it's in South America. So Srila Prabhupada was in Caracas. He visited there a few times. So one devotee, you know, he was in great anxiety. And when he raised his hand, and then Srila Prabhupada was very perceptive and very sensitive. And he looked at him, he said, so? And he said, you know, Srila Prabhupada, you know, I'm following everything that you told us to do. You know, I'm following the regulative principles. I'm chanting minimum 16 rounds daily of Hare Krishna Mahamantra Japa. And I followed the full morning program. And during the day, there's different services to do. Sometimes there's shopping or buying to do boga and so forth for the temple. I do that. And sometimes I do go out on book distribution. And then Srila Prabhupada asked him, so what is your question? Then he asked Srila Prabhupada, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yam Yam Bhapi Smaram Bhava, that at the time of leaving this body, we have to remember Krishna, and then we can go back to Golok Vrindavan. And then he asked Srila Prabhupada, what if I cannot, and despite doing everything you asked us to do, what if I cannot remember Krishna? I'm in anxiety because I have realized I don't want to take birth again in the material world. It's so much suffering here. Birth, old age, disease and death, anxiety, stress, depression, so many things like that. Then Srila Prabhupada said, you missed out one thing to tell me. And then he asked Srila Prabhupada, what is it? He said, do you only honor Krishna Prasad? There's food cooked by devotees and food honored by devotees. You understand? Not from Mount Kailash. Or not from that Vrindavan vegetarian restaurant. Yes, Vrindavan also. Not from there. That's not Goloka. And that's not Muktinath. Then Srila Prabhupada, do you only honor Krishna Prasad? So the devotee said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, I'm living in the temple and I get Mahaprasad and we get prasad from the devotee kitchen. I said, okay. And then Prabhupada was silent. Then he asked again, Srila Prabhupada, what if I cannot remember Krishna? I cannot take birth again. Very difficult. Then Srila Prabhupada asked him, what did I request you to do? Like that. Then again he mentioned, same thing. Follow the four principles, chant Hare Krishna Japa, morning program, and only honor Krishna Prasad, do some practical service including book distribution. Then Prabhupada kept quiet. And he asked Srila Prabhupada, but I repeated what you asked me to do. What if I don't remember Krishna? Then Srila Prabhupada asked him, when did I ever tell you to remember Krishna at the time of death? And if you read all of Prabhupada's letters, even in the letters, he doesn't tell you to remember Krishna. He tells you just to follow these things. 4 regular principles, 16 rounds japa, have a good morning program, only honor Krishna Prasadam, do some practical service, like that. So the devotee thought about it. He said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, you didn't say that we should remember Krishna at the time of death, but Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying in the 8th chapter, same chapter, Krishna is saying. And Prabhupada says, Krishna may say, but when did I say? And Prabhupada never really said that. He just told us to do these things like that. Yeah. And he saw that the devotee was really worried. And finally the devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, please tell me, although Krishna may say, but I may not remember Krishna at the time of leaving this body. Then Srila Prabhupada said, that is not your responsibility, that is mine. But you have to strictly follow. That's all. Another time, another disciple told Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, it's very difficult. I know for me it will be very difficult to remember Radha Krishna at the time of leaving this body. But this is wonderful questions because they want to go back to Golok. Wonderful. other time, so the devotee said, Srila Prabhupada, it is very difficult. Actually, it was a lady disciple, Mataji. So she said, Prabhupada, very difficult to remember Krishna at the time of leaving this body. So then Prabhupada asked her why. Then she said, Srila Prabhupada, I don't really know who Krishna is. I'm following everything, but I don't know who Krishna is. Then Prabhupada kept quiet. And he said, anything else? He said, but Srila Prabhupada, I know you. And I know you know Krishna. Like that. So is it okay, because I know you and I'm attached to you, is it okay if I remember you at the time of leaving this body? Will it take me to Krishna? Is it good as remembering Krishna? So Srila Prabhupada put his head down and he said, yes. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Do you have any comments or questions you'd like to ask now? Can you hear the sound in the back? Clear? Huh? Okay. Just a nice sound system here too. Any comments or questions you'd like to ask? Anyone? You have it? You have microphone? You have another microphone? No. Okay. What's your name again?
Dinanath Giridharidas.
Jai? Oh, you own the economy of Bahrain. Your name is Dina. Is Dina Nath? Nath means owner of Dina. You own the economy. Dina Nath?
Giridharidas.
Giridhari. Giridhari.
Maharaj,
So, can you speak? Stand up. Project your voice to the end of the room. Everyone will hear you. Stand up. Few minutes. Stand this side, DT side. So speak to everyone. I will hear your question.
yeah, sir,
No. See them. Question.
Speak your question.
Speak loudly. Everyone must
my
hear.
question is, like in the material world, there are 8,400,000 pieces of light. So what about the spiritual world?
He came from Golok down to material world.
So is it same?
Huh?
I have two questions.
Yeah.
Is there also like 8,400,000 pieces in the spiritual world? Also another question is, just we are here jivo jivasya jivanam. One jiva is the food of other jiva. So is this principle is applied in the spiritual world also?
Say, Wakara. You see, the karma is only for the human beings and the demigods. Who look like human form. There's no karma or reaction for the other species of life, the lower species of life. So they don't get any reaction. But they progress naturally through the evolutionary scale and come to the human form of life. And Srila Prabhupada said the human form of life is the best, you could say, vehicle or facility to come to Krishna consciousness. Are we okay so far? And that's within this world. Is that okay? So one disciple asked Srila Prabhupada that this apple that we're offering to Radha Krishna, and then it becomes Mahaprasad. See? What benefit does the apple get? So Srila Prabhupada said that apple came from a particular tree. So that tree gets the full benefit. That tree came from an apple seed. Right? So that seed from that apple seeds produce so many other trees. So the whole orchard of apple trees will get benefit. You're getting it? So far. And the benefit for them is that from the, you could say, body of a tree, they'll immediately be promoted to the human life. They don't have to go through the evolutionary cycle and then they take to devotional service. That's within this material world. Within this material. Are we clear? Now, the text I did today, I'll read it. Can I read it? Okay. It says here, the supreme abode of the personality of Godhead Krishna is described in the Brahma Samhita as Chintamani Dham, a place where all desires are fulfilled. The supreme abode of Lord Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavan, is full of palaces made of touchstone. There are also trees called desire trees, in Sanskrit kalpavriksha trees, that supply any type of eatable upon demand. Got it? Yeah. So now, Chintamani Prakara Sanvashu Kalpaviksha Laksha Viteshu Surabhi Abhipalayant. That's the verse that's being described by Prabhupada from the Brahma Samhita. So, in the spiritual world, in Goloka Vrindavan, there are kalpaviksha trees. You with me? So, when Mother Yasoda wants to offer some fruits to Krishna, see? So she may pluck some fruits. But as soon as the fruit is plucked from the tree, and that same fruit can supply more fruits. You understand? You good so far? Yeah. It's a kalpaviksha tree. There's no old age and disease there. There's no birth and death. And Srila Prabhupada used to quote another Brahma Samhita verse, Ananda Chinmaya Ras Pratibhavitamis. So Ananda Chinmaya Ras means everything is of the nature of eternality. Nothing gets decayed or rotten there. You understand? So that's kalpaviksha tree. And the kalpaviksha tree is not governed by spring, summer, autumn or winter. It can give any type of fruit, any time, any eatable upon demand, in any time, in eternal time. It's too good to be true, but nice to go to that place. But in Goloka Vrindavan, there's no selfishness. They don't have a tree for their own sense gratification. Everything is there for the pleasure of Radha, Krishna. Everything. So when the boys go out with their tiffins, on a picnic, like Sri Dam Sobal Stoka Krishna, there's even one coward boy named Arjuna. When they go out with Krishna Balaram, they take their tiffins. You with me? So when they sit down to honor prasad, they don't say, Maha Prasadi Govinde, they don't say all that. See? Because they live with Krishna Balaram eternally. In fact, they steal each other's luncheons. Like that. So it's normal. It is normal in the Goloka Vrindavan. Next question. Anyone? Yeah. Stand.
Maharaj, how we can increase our faith?
In what? Faith in what?
Faith in means to increase our Krishna consciousness, because we know the Goloka is our ultimate destination. But we don't have faith that we will reach there.
Sit down. You must have faith in two things which you must consider most valuable. And both are related. You must have faith in serving Vaishnavas without discrimination. Without
Discrimination.
And you must have faith in chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra Japa. So the most valuable we have is the devotees and the holy names. This is of the best value. This is our supreme wealth, these two items, you could say, or things, or personalities. Because Radha Krishna are the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and the devotees. These personalities. So when you have faith that my only wealth is from my side, the favorable association of devotees, even if they don't like me, I still like them. So therefore I have to serve those devotees who don't like me more than those who like me. So that is called without a discrimination. And the other most valuable wealth we have is the holy names, which is no different from Radha Krishna. Once you focus on these two, which should be of great value in your life, your best wealth, your best possessions, then you're on your way, on the path back home, back to Goloka. Next question. Anyone? One minute. Considering to say one more point. So in another part of the world, in another country that I go, and it's mainly Indian community devotees in that part of the world. So they may have like maybe 4 major temples and probably 6 or 7 smaller temples, like Namahata buildings and so forth. So when I used to go there many years ago, I found that each like temple manager in the small centers or a temple president in the big centers, they are like their own kings in their own kingdom, like that. So I didn't know that, that. So one nice devotee family visited me. I was a brahmachari then. This was like maybe 25 years ago. Someone visited me and he said, Prabhu, I have a problem. I said, what's your problem? He said, no, I joined in this particular temple. And this temple president is very influential and powerful. Like that. So when I told him that I had some friends in the other temple and I wanted to go dress Prabhupada there once a week, you know. So this temple president said, no, you belong to this temple, you don't go to the other temple. And I said, which ISKCON is this and which ISKCON is that? I asked him to go and ask the temple president. I'm a little bit bold when it comes to this. So he went to the temple president and he said, Prabhu said this. Now I'm senior to all of them in terms of joining. So the temple president called me up on the phone and he said, he'd like to meet me after the Sunday Feast program and I'm scheduled to give the lecture. So I called the devotee also because I don't want to speak behind people's back. So I said, you speak now in front of him. So this temple president said, yes, he's doing service here, why needs to go do service there? See? Then I asked him, I said, is Prabhupada in the temple there? He said, yes. I said, is Prabhupada in this temple? He said, yes. I said, who this temple belongs to? He said, Prabhupada. I said, who that temple belongs to? He said, also Prabhupada. I said, why are you discriminating like this? Because you are not saying it. And I told him, I said, this temple belongs to you, it doesn't belong to Prabhupada. And I'm not coming here anymore. Until you realize this temple belongs to Prabhupada, not to you. And the temple president is the number one servant, not number one controller. I don't know. Then he said, no, Prabhu, don't say like that. You please come again. I said, I'm not going to come until you allow this devotee, you know, and give him your mercy and blessing, that he can dress Prabhupada once a week there and he can still do his service here. Okay. So therefore, if you want to pave your own path on the way back home, back to Golok Vrindavan, you have to learn to serve without any discrimination. And if you allow, and you have to encourage others to also serve without discrimination. You can't say, oh, that is your ISKCON with your Prabhupada, this is my ISKCON with my Prabhupada, as if you're the supreme controller. I'll give you one boot in the face, you know. There's no common sense there. And you cannot say, well, this is my God brothers and God sisters, and that's your God brothers and God sisters. What is that? That is all, diversity. There's no unity. Not nice. And you won't go back to Golok. Please, we only tell you to please change and go back to Golok. And when you go before me to Golok Vrindavan, you put a good word for me. I'm still stuck here, you are there now. Put a good word for me. Tell Radha Krishna, he's struggling there. Please bring him. So our most valuable wealth is the favorable association of devotees culminating in Vaishnava Seva without any discrimination. And the other most valuable wealth is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prasadam is being offered, so we have time. Any other question or comment? You have it? Come stand. Speak loudly. Give him the phone. Speak loudly, huh? Face, face.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is to complete our 16 rounds in morning. To what extent we can compromise the home deity worship? Like in morning we get around 2.5 3 hours.
He's asking that we do puja in the morning and we do arti. So maybe one daughter's name is Puja and the other daughter's name is Arti. You have two daughters, Puja and Arti. Huh?
Two sons.
Two sons. But you know, sometimes girls' names are Puja and the other one's name is Arti. See? Got it? So you have to worship them. You have to worship Puja and worship Arati. What vow are you prepared for before initiation? What's the positive vow you take?
For regular principles and 16.
Positive vow is to chant minimum 16 rounds of japa daily. Do you take a vow to do puja and do arati? Do you take a vow to distribute books? Do you take a vow to build temple? No. You take the vow to chant minimum 16 rounds of japa daily. You cannot compromise on that. Because that's the only vow you take that's positive. And that's the only foundation or basis from which all other services become not service but becomes devotional service. Devotion comes from chanting your japa. Okay. You cannot compromise the japa period in the morning for anything. It's Prabhupada's system. And Prabhupada makes it very clear that you have to chant your japa in the morning during Brahma Muhurta time. And he gave a clear-cut morning program. After Mangalarti to Darshanarti, you chant japa. But it's nice if you can chant japa before Mangalarti. So you take a rest early and you attended the course, right? You know all this already. Why are you asking questions?
No, like home deity.
It took 5 days, to prepare you. During Srila Prabhupada's time, when you want to become a devotee, a practicing devotee, you have to live in the temple. Are we clear?
Yes.
Yeah. So some devotees, a brahmachari, and another devotee, brahmacharini, they got married. During Srila Prabhupada's time also. But there was no congregation. You understand? So after they got married, now the father or the husband realized that he has to do some work to get some money to take care of the family. So then he leaves the temple and he finds an apartment near the temple or a house so he can come regularly to the temple and continue with some service. So some of them in those early days when they got married and moved outside the temple, during Prabhupada's time that also happened. So they asked Srila Prabhupada, what should we do? He said, your first worship, it should be for the temple deities. That's your first worship. Because as a householder you should worship deities, but it should be the temple deities where you were as brahmachari. So you should continue to worship those deities. Come and do some service for the deities. Like that. So later on, one disciple with his wife, he went to open a new center in a place called Victoria Island, which is near Vancouver in British Columbia in Canada, which is the west coast. So there's a big island they call Victoria Island. It's far bigger than Bahrain. Big island. You take a boat. So the first center in British Columbia, which is the state where Vancouver is the capital on the west coast of Canada, the first temple was opened on the Victoria Island. So Srila Prabhupada sent, his name is Gaura something, and his wife. He sent him to the open center. So they asked Srila Prabhupada afterwards. Now he went first, then Srila Prabhupada sent this other brahmacharini to get married to him and then continue the center. So when he arrived there, he didn't know what to do, so he asked Prabhupada what to do in the center. Then Srila Prabhupada said, I'm sending you small Gaur-Nitai deities. Because he knew as a householder he needs to worship deities. But it's not in his own house, it's in the temple in the center. So when as Krishna consciousness spread in Victoria Island, then we moved to Burnaby in mainland Vancouver, which is a little away from the city, about 45 minutes drive. So the same deities came there, small Gaur-Nitai deities. You getting it? And then Srila Prabhupada said, then if you get married, you live around the temple. But the temple made about maybe 7 or 8 apartments, and they stayed on the temple ground and they worship the deity, go to work and come back. You good? Yeah. So my point is very simple. If you have your own deities, then you have to give them some time. But who asked you to get your own deities? When you have the temple deities. And it's not very far. To go to a temple from any part of the city here is like 15 minutes to half an hour. See? But if you have your own deities, then you cannot neglect them. But who asked you to get them? It's not Prabhupada's system. But if you're living far away from all other devotees, and and you're opening a new center, but if it's in your home for a bhakti rickshaw or this, then you can have deities. But if you have the main temple deities near you, there's no need to have your own deities. So I don't know how that spread, And then you compromise so many things. You compromise your japa, you compromise spending time with your children before they go to school, so many things.
I am new to ISKCON, but I see the senior.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know what's Prabhupada's standard. We've introduced many things that's not Prabhupada's standard. See, they're recording. I'm bold with this thing.
Can I accept him?
One of the offenses to the holy name is to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the ritualistic ceremonies which is offered in the Vedas as karma kanda. To consider that. So you're replacing chanting Hare Krishna by doing some ritualistic ceremonies of puja and arti, which is more important than chanting. Then you regard chanting as a ritualistic ceremony, as part of the karma kanda. You have to be careful. It's a very refined thing. And you know how difficult it is to chant rounds after you come from work, right? Is it easy? It's easier in the morning, right? But it's easier to do arti and puja in the afternoon. Even if you're tired, you'll do the puja, you won't sleep, right? Because the ghee lamp will burn you. Manjari, that happened to you, was tied in your Gilam didn't burn it. So we already have the deities. Which will please them more? To chant japa before them or to do the arti and puja? Because that's the most essential instruction of the disciplic succession. We did this in the Japa Ashraya course. It is the most essential instruction of the Guru Parampara, Prabhupada. And if you're not serious about the japa, how can you encourage others to be serious about japa? Yeah. You accept it. How can you encourage others? You tell others to do Nishinga Puja instead of japa. And Prabhupada never really introduced the deity of Nishinga. He never really introduced. You show me one ISKCON founded temple by Prabhupada where he put a deity of Nishinga. Show me one. During Prabhupada's time. He gave Nishingadev praise. And he said that photo of where Nishingadev is nicely purifying Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad is standing gently on the side with a garland. Meanwhile, Nishingadev is so happy he's already garlanded by Hiranyakashipu's insides, That's the first garland. Because Hiranyakashipu gave his life for Nishingadev's pleasure. But Prahlad didn't give his life, he got normal garland. He said that picture should be in the altar and worship. That painting. So you please chant your japa in the morning. You may do some simple, offer one incense or something quickly and maybe, clean the altar and things like that. But to go into a whole ritual, at the expense of not chanting your japa, then you regard the japa as one of the ritualistic ceremonies, which is not important for you. Because the actual ritualistic ceremony of puja and arti is more important. Be careful. You don't understand what is the 10 offenses of the holy name. Although you know it, but you don't understand it. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the ritualistic ceremonies which is offered in the Vedas as karma kanda. If you do like that, you consider like that the holy name. Sometimes I get a little surprised and sometimes I get shocked when I get questions like this. I'm thinking, how is this question coming like this? So you definitely require proper spiritual leadership. Administration management will go on. Administration management will go on. Build nice temple, pay the light account, serve the prasad, Sunday feast, this, that. But spiritual leadership, genuine spiritual leadership is necessary. And genuine spiritual leadership you should look towards devotees who are genuine spiritual leaders. Because we want you to go back home to Golok, not get mixed up in some ritualistic ceremony. You please take rest early, rise early, chant your japa, then do your arti and puja. And your arti and puja will be devotional, not ritualistic. Because you just did your japa. You have to bring in the devotional consciousness. Same activity, but consciousness changes. Prabhu, is that okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you. clarify my. It will help me.
Gopinath, where are you? I know the second part of his name. Huh?
Prasanna Chittu.
Prasanna? Where is he? Somewhere? I thought he's here.
He was here.
Wait. Antaryami, how are you? Can I take one more question, then we conclude? One more question from the ladies, Vaishnavi side. Amas. Okay, Manjari, ask question. Scream, huh? They must hear in the back. Scream.
Well, how do we deal with enviousness and jealousy amongst the devotees?
She's asking.
Positively.
She's asking a question. How do we deal with enviousness amongst devotees? Is that a nice question to answer? It's a very envious question, am I? How do we deal with envy among devotees? If there's envy, then they're not devotees. Have I answered your question?
It is.
Huh? Simple, sweet. Huh? But I'll tell you something. There's a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, you're standing for what? You're hungry? What prasad? They're not giving prasad feast? They have prasad feast? That too is there, right? Yeah, we'll do that. Sit down. Sit. Nice chair, sit down. They sit there, sit. Mala. I'm losing your darshan, and if I don't see you, I can't continue. Where that Amma was sitting there? You want a chair also? Another chair. Amma! Inge mango. She down in Hindi? Tamil? Malayalam? What kind? My forefathers from father's side come from Malabar and Kerala. You be careful, huh? We same caste. Right? You can't bluff me. Hare Krishna. Okay, so one very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he was traveling early when Srila Prabhupada in Surat in 1970-71. So Srila Prabhupada was staying in a nice bungalow. There was no temples in the Bharat that time. So he was like in anxiety that he had some, you could say, a dislike which would lead to being envious of other devotees. He felt he had that. He didn't tell anyone, but he felt like he was like being like dominated by that in his consciousness. So he approached Srila Prabhupada and he said, Srila Prabhupada, I'm envious of the devotees. But it wasn't really envy, but he used that word. He used that word. And then Srila Prabhupada replied to him, can you give me reasons not to be envious of devotees? Manjari, give one reason not to be envious of devotees. Give one reason.
They're all serving.
They're all serving. Nice. Got it? So, Prabhupada stumped him. First he said that he feels a little envious of other devotees. Then Prabhupada turned it and he said, give me reasons for not to be envious of devotees. So he went away and then he thought of so many reasons are there not to be envious of devotees. One is they are all serving. Right? So he came back to Srila Prabhupada and Prabhupada said, do you have any reasons to tell me that, how not to be envious of devotees? She said, Prabhupada, yes, I was considering service is unlimited. So why should I be? So many things. Prabhupada knew he was still having this dislike. So there are three strengths in this. One is dislike, and the other is jealousy, and the other is envy. You getting it? So dislike means that you don't like somebody for no reason. So can you think of any reason why you don't like the other devotee? But there will be no reason that is of substance. Because that devotee is not your friend, they don't know you, and you don't know them. So you only see them formally, Sunday program or Friday program or something like that. So the dislike mainly amongst devotees comes from karma chemistry. The karma chemistry means that you come with your certain set of higher and lower nature and likes and dislikes before you came to Krishna consciousness, and they're also coming with that. See? And then you'll tell your friend, I don't like how she walks. and one Mahaprabhu said, he always speaks too much. Now that's like speaking in a way of disliking. But there's no substance to it. There's no reason to that for you to say that. You are saying it because you have your dislikes and you have your likes also coming from your own karma chemistry. You getting it? So that's not a problem. That is not a problem. And jealousy is also not a problem. One devotee may be jealous of another devotee and he's thinking, why he distributed so many books, I didn't. But that jealousy will make you increase your own distribution of books. So jealousy is like this. So Srila Prabhupada gives the example. Jealousy is like, when there's the father and there's two daughters. Right? So the firstborn daughter, the eldest one, is the favorite of the father. And then the younger daughter is jealous of the elder daughter in the presence of the father. Because in the presence of the father, they are daughters, they are not sisters. You getting it? And she's jealous because the father gives more attention to the firstborn. Right? True, huh? At home also. Two daughters. Yeah. Now, the same two who are daughters in the presence of the father are walking on the street, but they're no more daughters, they are sisters. Because the father is not there. So the younger sister, she notices that there's one young man, he likes the older sister and he whistles from behind one tree. I'm putting it mild, nowadays it's worse. So she goes up to that young man and says, you rude, why are you doing this to my sister? And then the younger sister slaps him. You don't know that is my elder sister? That is my akka, You can't do this. Is she jealous? No. So as sisters, she's not jealous. But as daughters, jealousy. It's normal. So that's also in Golok Vrindavan, that type of jealousy. But envy, Prabhupada says, is not there. Envy means I bring you down and I tramp you down and I stamp on you down and I'll be up. We don't want that. So really speaking, there's no envy amongst devotees. If you're envious, then don't consider yourself a devotee. Coming back to Prabhupada. Prabhupada. So Prabhupada saw that this devotee is not envious, neither is he jealous of other devotees, but there's some dislike. But the devotee used the strong word as he knows, I'm envious. And Srila Prabhupada said, even if you are envious, but it's maybe a little bit like dislike. So you're not, Prabhupada used the word, so you're not liking. Prabhupada says, not envy and not jealousy. But he said, your not liking should not be dovetailed towards devotees. Your not liking should be dovetailed towards atheists and Mayavadis and impersonalists. But not towards devotees. You must save the people by preaching not to be influenced by atheists and impersonalists. And impersonalism is covered atheism also. So he said, if you have a dislike towards them, then it's all right. Because Prabhupada had that himself. Fools and rascals. It's very heavy, Fools and rascals. And Prabhupada said, I'm not saying, Krishna is saying, Avajananti ma Buddha, they are Buddhas, fools. So that dislike can be dovetailed towards them to save the persons who are innocent and the ignorant, but not your dislike to be dovetailed towards devotees. If you still have dislike. Thank you. Nice question. Amma, what's menu today? You here, right? Menu. I give microphone. Okay, say. What's it?
Dal.
Number one.
Rice.
Dal, rice, what else?
Sabji.
What sabji, Amma?
Cauliflower potato.
Cauliflower potato sabji. You put hing there? You put hing, eh?
Yes.
What else?
Puri.
Oh, puri also, rice and puri. Ki jai. Four. Eh? What sweet?
Rice.
Five preparations. Ki jai. Now we increased your appetite. Good. Hey, Gopinath. I didn't see you where you was hiding in the kitchen. Busy, eh? So much seva. Anyway, I think I recorded, you can see. Hare Krishna. Okay. Now, for prasadam, where do they serve prasad? Yeah. Everyone sits down and they come to you?
Yeah, we serve in the.
Huh?
We prepare a plate and we
give. Okay, good. Because some of the elders, like Rasheshwari, Amma is there, they need chair, They need chair. If table's nicer, but at least some of them should sit on chair and eat. Antaryami, you need chair also. Okay?
This is the chair.
Yeah. So you got chair. So he is what, 75 years young. What's your age?
26.
Oh, more. Huh? He's 76 years young. 76 years?
Yeah.
Not old. See? Smiling, happy. All duties are over, right? Children all finished, over, right? His grandfather also.
Yeah.
But duties are over. That's why he's so happy. He's liberated. He's free. We okay? So who's serving prasad?
We want the prasad to distribute.
Prasad is already there.
Yeah.
But I think our Mangal Raj Prabhu said
They're
they're
bringing
bringing
one there.
something here. They want, I don't know why he's doing this, but they say I must give you. Is that correct?
Yes.
I must